Marshall Anu, new cryptocurrency, taking over the world, involved with MMA. They have a weekly call on something that Twitter hosts called Spaces. So I tune on there every week, so what's going on. And I had a very pleasant experience on this week's call because Bryce Mitchell gets teed up. Now, Bryce has been on board, and you see him in the ring, and he's shouting out Marshall Anu, Kamaru Usman, Ian Heinisch. I'm on there. Bryce Mitchell comes on. Now, I expected Bryce to say hello and aw shucks like the good old boy is and sit there with his mouth shut. Instead, he cuts a promo for an hour and 40 minutes. Bryce Mitchell turns out to be secretly really smart. It was this most interesting thing to hear Bryce talk. I mean, he was given a class on inflation. He was teaching all about cryptocurrencies, which he's been involved with. He's talking about rental problems. He's explaining what passive income is. He's got a charity going on. He even broke bad on Microsoft founder Bill Gates. I mean, this was like one of the most interesting hour and 40 minutes that I had, but it ties in with Paddy the Baddy. So Paddy the Baddy disclosed what his pay for his last fight was. I cannot vouch for it. I do not know what Paddy the Baddy got paid. If you fight inside of the states, those commissions operate at the discretion of the Attorney General, who operates on tax-funded dollars, which means they're public. And we can see it. We understand there's bonuses. We understand there's, what do some people call the locker room? We understand sponsorship. We don't know all of the numbers, but you can generally get a guy's win and show disclosed. I bring this to you because Heinisch spoke up real quick on this Marshall Anu call, and Heinisch goes, you know what? I was put in a really tough spot one time, and I had to take a fight against a highly ranked guy on very short notice. Nothing was discussed, but here's what Dana did for me privately that none of you know about. It's very relevant if you're one of the veterans in the sport. You know exactly how this works. But if you're brand new to the sport, you don't. And so we hear a lot of guys talking about it, and nobody's in the wrong. But Paddy the Baddy said, I want to renegotiate. Now, Paddy's not doing anything wrong. Whatever he wants to do strategically with his career, he's not wrong. It's not for me to judge. And Paddy appears to have a very inherent value just based on the couple of rooms that I've personally been in and watched him walk into. I have heard that people are interested in Paddy. I have a business over here where I run off of numbers. And not only are my numbers audited, they're publicly audited. There's nothing I can do. It goes right there for the world to say. And I will tell you in all fairness, when I can say Paddy the Baddy in something that kids call a thumbnail, which means the headline of my article, they do really well. I don't know how long that's going to last. I have the foggiest idea, but I will tell you there's something special there with Paddy. And when I go to watch him over the weekend, he appears to be a one-man band. I watched Paddy. I would never disrespect one of his opponents. I'm not the guy who goes, I don't even know who that was. I would never admit it, even if it was true. It's my job to know who it was. I watched him 3 days ago. I don't know who he fought. The guy walked in here and slapped me in the face right now. I wouldn't know who it was. If you guys give me multiple choice, I couldn't produce the name. I was far more interested in Mr. Hand Sanitizer and Paddy the Baddy. It's just a reality. That's not my fault. That's the way that it goes. But the point that I'm trying to make is nobody can sell on their own. As a matter of fact, Max Kellerman has gone on record to state there's only 2 fighters in the history of the sport of combat who have sold on their own, Mike Tyson and Oscar De La Hoya. I believe that list needs to be amended, and I believe that you would have to add Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. That's another conversation. I have still proved Max Kellerman's point. No matter what bad thoughts you have for your opponent, no matter how much of your life you put on hold to go out there and damage the person across from you, make no mistake, that is your partner. It takes 2. And with the brief exceptions that I just gave, you could not make that list spill onto 2 hands. Paddy the Baddy, in this very early and young career, is already flirting with that idea. I stopped what I was doing to watch him. I heard every bit of it. I did not turn the TV off when the fight was over. I wanted to hear everything that he had to say, and I could not produce the name of his opponent. Very unique spot. So for Paddy to want to come in and renegotiate, now this is a game. And you're playing against the boys in Vegas. And one thing where that little city in a desert thrives on is the house always wins. So it's one of those things. You had better know what you're doing, and you had better know when to do it. Now, you don't have a whole lot of options, right? It's like music. There's only so many notes. Do you want to go out and create storylines? Do you want to create it with an opponent that everybody else needs, except for Paddy? He apparently does not. Do you want to do it with ranked guys? Do you want to work your way up the card and get closer to a title fight and just time all of that right at the end of your contract so that you can go in and point the gun at them and say, I got you? Or do you want to refuse to fight ranked opponents, rest on your laurels, and hope to God and heaven above that what you've done is enough to make it go your way now? There is no wrong answer. There's really not. There's a polite way to do it, right? If I'm in the promoter's shoes and I got to deal with the guy and I can't trust him, not just at his word on a handshake, I got to defer. The last thing I ever want to do is to defer to a contract. Never do I want to do that. I want to have a relationship that's right here. But if I have to, push comes to shove and I got to go to a legally binding contract and you still aren't willing to honor it, I got a problem. I got a big problem of what do I do moving forward. In a best case scenario, you're not my champion. You're not my main event. I do not have any tickets sold with you. I have not promised you to anybody. And now that I know I can't trust you, all I need to know is that I shouldn't go promise you to anybody. Or do I have somebody where we can go back and forth and we can work together? It's a very tough spot. And it even defers to professional wrestling. Before Vince McMahon will put a belt on somebody, he will have him over to his house. He takes them outside to the swimming pool, just the two of them, and he starts visiting about the business to hear what their vision is. Vince got tested on this one time. When I tell you that Dana White does not owe anybody Paddy, he doesn't. He did over the weekend. He promised Paddy. Dana delivered. Before Dana makes that same promise, he needs to know that he can trust the guy, right? That sounds reasonable. And Vince McMahon promised, I'm going way back, I believe the year was 1989. If I'm wrong, it was 1991, and it was an event called Survivor Series. Comes out on Thanksgiving Day. Pay-per-view. And Vince promised the world the biggest star in the sport, who was not Hulk Hogan. At that time, the biggest draw in wrestling was Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior sold out that arena. It was called closed captioning back then, which you guys know as pay-per-view was called closed captioning. They did it in people's houses. They did great commercial business. There was even some movie theaters that packed it. Everything's going great. Warrior shows up to the arena. He walks up to Vince McMahon. He says, you're going to give me $1 million right now or I'm not walking through that curtain. Now, the tickets were already sold. If Warrior wants to breach his contract, Vince could come out and just tell everybody what happened. It'd be just as entertaining, and none of us would want our money back, not to mention legally speaking, we're not obligated to our money back, which is why there's a little asterisk at the bottom of every marketing piece that goes out that says card subject to change. But Vince still had honor. He promised hard-working men and women, you guys, that for $20 and a few hours of your time, he would bring you your favorite wrestler, who unanimously was the Ultimate Warrior. So Vince wrote him a check, of which Vince could have canceled. He didn't, for $1 million and handed it to him. The Warrior went through the curtain as scheduled. Nobody knew this happened. The Warrior walked back through the curtain. Vince said, get out of my building. You're fired. Never put him on TV again. Now you fast forward. I'm well aware how the stories changed, and eventually Vince forgives everybody, as he will do. And 30 years later, Warrior, rest his soul, even gets put into the Hall of Fame. But it's a very relevant that who you're doing business with. Do they truly care? Are they an ambassador? Because there's somewhere for them to fight. There's 556 guys with contracts with the UFC right now. Where they are going to be placed on the card and what emphasis is going to be put on them is very much a business decision. You have so many media outlets that want interviews. Who you offer them to interview. You have so many magazines that would like photo shoots. You have so many media personnel who asked for credentials to cover X, Y, and Z fighter. Whether you bring them in and give that access, or whether you realize, I don't want to make a promise that I can't deliver on. I'm as good as my word, but I'm as good as the words that are being said to me. It's a very slippery game. And I'm not suggesting for you Paddy did anything wrong. I appreciate one thing in Paddy. The same thing I appreciate in Francis Ngannou. They do not owe us their business. They don't owe it to us to tell us what they're making. They don't owe us to tell us how many fights are left on their contract. They do not owe it to us to tell us what goes through the calculations of the computer known as they and their managers' minds to compute whether they'll say yes or no to an opportunity. They don't owe it to us, but they brought us in on it. I appreciate that. There's a fan in me somewhere. I like disclosure. I like honesty. I don't like when somebody comes out and pretends to be something they're not. It's okay if they do. I understand the value of working a gimmick. I just don't like it. I'm a smart mark. I see through it. I expose it. That's what us marks love to do. We love to look for cracks in the armor and then come expose and go, I'm the one. Let me shine the light on it. Okay, great. I can't do it because Paddy, much like Francis, is telling us the truth. I don't love the words. But they're their words. They're honest, and they didn't owe it to us in the first place. I don't have an overarching point on this, guys. If you're waiting to see if Chael's going to throw the book at Paddy or be receptive and say, add a comment in a couple of zeros, I'm not. I got to sit back and see how this is going to go. Paddy has chosen to bring us all in on this. He's openly saying that he wants to renegotiate. He's openly saying, I'm not fighting anybody in the top 15. I have to return the respect to Paddy. I can't deny what happened. I can't rewrite history and say that he would have an entire arena cheering for him. I can't lie and say that the numbers that I do just for speaking about the son of a bitch are pretty good numbers. It wouldn't be true if I told you I don't care if he never fights again. As a matter of fact, I'd like to do whatever it takes to get him into the top 15 so that now the haters can be happy too. A lot of people are going to come along the Paddy train to see the son of a bitch fail. It's what we love to do. And in North America, maybe more so in England. In North America, we love to build somebody up just so we can bring them down. That's true. I don't know if there's a guy outside the top 15 that can deal with him. Paddy's a handful, and it looks like he's getting better. He appears to be grounded and have a good attitude. Now he's bringing us along in some of his inner thoughts, of which I don't love. I'm seeing a little bit of Ultimate Warrior there. I paid tickets. I bought that Survivor Series back in 1991. Had I known that my favorite wrestler, before he tied off his veins and put the makeup on his face and blew his hair out, had held the promoter hostage, I wouldn't have been his fan. That would have annoyed me. I'd have felt like that was dishonest. But Paddy's anything but dishonest. He's telling you everything, whether you like it or not, and there's only a couple of ways to play this. Strategy is very hard. It's Paddy and a manager versus the best in the world that do this all day. Paddy's done it one time in his life. These guys have done this one time in the last 15 minutes. Okay? Let's see what happens with Paddy here. I don't want to get behind him. And I don't want him in main events, and I don't want him in contenderships, and I don't want him fighting for the belt, unless it's what he wants to do. That's for me. I will encourage the parent in me. I will encourage my children to try soccer. When Little League signups come out, we're going to be in line. As soon as somebody puts up a net and throws a volleyball out, we're going to show up. They go back day 2, that'll be up to them. But I'm never going to drop them at fight practice. I'm just not going to do it. If they come and they ask me, we'll have a different conversation. Fighting is something that you have to want to do. And I, as a fan, need to know that I'm dealing with people that want to be there, that this is their aspiration, that this is inside of them, that they got this burning pit in their stomach. They want the respect and the accolades that they feel I need that. If a guy's fighting for my right, it's a tough spot. But I can't give Paddy a hard time because Paddy has chose us all as his confidants. He's entrusted with us to tell us how he's feeling, which does lend me to my larger point that you might have a couple of rocky ways, but I believe for now that once Paddy tells you he's going to do something, I believe you can take him at his word.